The Marvel Cinematic Universe is the most successful film franchise of all time. However, because of its grand scale, sometimes certain projects never see the light of day. There were projects such as the War Machine movie, which was in development after Iron Man 2, but quickly got shelved as Iron Man 3's story developed. However, as you'll see, there were a multitude of other movies that were cancelled through the years or were heavily modified and changed from the original vision. The Runaways film adaptation was one of the earliest projects discussed by Marvel Studios. In 2008, as the MCU was just beginning, writer Brian K. Vaughan, co-creator of the comic series, signed on to pen a screenplay for the film. With Iron Man being a huge success, the Runaways film seemed like a natural next step. However, the project stalled as Marvel Studios became absorbed in developing the films that would form the Infinity Saga. Since Marvel lacked the rights to the X-Men IP, they had to find a different set of characters who'd be the closest equivalent. That's where the Inhumans came in, as they were the closest counterparts to the X-Men in the Marvel Universe. The Inhumans movie was first announced in 2011 and was initially slated for a release on November 2nd, 2018. For years, there was little news on the movie until 2016 when Disney removed the title from its production schedule. In a surprise twist, Marvel chose to pivot and announced that the Inhumans TV series would replace the movie. After the events of Avengers Endgame, Marvel Studios needed a central antagonist for the multiverse saga. Enter Kang the Conqueror, a villain that was supposed to take the place of Thanos as the MCU's major threat. Jonathan Majors was cast in the role, and his first appearance was in Loki Season 1. By 2022, Marvel had announced that Avengers: The Kang Dynasty would be the next major Avengers film, with Majors returning as the lead antagonist. However, things took an unexpected turn in late 2023 when Majors was found guilty of assault and harassment. As a result, Marvel Studios dropped the actor and reworked the direction of Avengers 5.
The idea to make Antman a heist movie structure was all Edgar and Joe. The idea of Hank Pym and Scott Lang as mentor and pupil, again, that was all theirs. And also the idea of a movie that all drives toward a third act where the big battle between the good guy and the bad guy takes place in a little girl's bedroom. That was always there from the beginning, and I stand by the fact that I think that's genius. I love it.
Before Antman became the heist movie we know today, it was meant to be a very different film under the direction of Edgar Wright.
Me and a friend wrote a treatment for it, and then nothing really happened with it, and then like 2 years ago when I first came to Comic-Con, I met Kevin and Ryan for the first time. We'd just seen Shaun of the Dead, and they asked me, are there any Marvel characters you're interested in? I said, oh, funny enough, I wrote a treatment for Antman like 3 years ago.
Wright had been attached to the Antman film for a very long time, and his vision for the project did shift many times over the production. His vision for the movie was very much in line with his previous works, a tightly knit but expansive crime heist film that centered on a series of robberies and heists, with Lang as a full-fledged criminal who'd go through a redemption arc throughout the film. The movie wouldn't take itself too seriously, with Edgar Wright's signature form of humor present throughout. Wright even shot a test reel for Ant-Man in 2012, meant to visualize how Ant-Man's powers would look on screen, which was showcased at Comic-Con that year. The short perfectly demonstrated Edgar Wright's visual style, including his use of visual comedy and unique shot direction. The footage was well received, showcasing a distinct and unique style compared to other Marvel movies. Creative differences between Wright and Marvel Studios led to his departure from the project in 2014. Wright later stated that the studio wanted to take the film in a direction that differed from his original vision, as Marvel wasn't too keen on fully embracing Edgar Wright's more unique style of filmmaking.
If we hole up, I want to be somewhere familiar, I want to know where the exits are, and I want to be allowed to smoke. Okay.
Hulk 2 was another film that unfortunately never came to pass, likely directed by Louis Leterrier. The sequel would have explored Banner's struggles to control the Hulk while also introducing alternative versions of the character like Grey Hulk. Leterrier envisioned a darker, more complex Hulk story, delving into Banner's consciousness during transformations. Grey Hulk then would have been a way to expand on that idea without having to fully commit to the concept of a smart Hulk. Edward Norton would have had a significant creative role, pitching a 2-film arc that showcased Banner as a conscious dreamer, able to control the Hulk while still having an ambiguity about who was truly in control, an idea that was only briefly explored at the end of the first film. Clearly, Edward Norton viewed Banner and Hulk as deeply complex characters, ones that suffered from major trauma in their lives and were unique foils to each other's existence. Norton then hoped to explore this idea deeply, creating a series of superhero films more akin to Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. However, this darker, psychological approach clashed with Marvel's vision, leading to tensions and Norton's eventual departure.
We knew that we wanted Wanda to be in it. I think originally it was a version where Wanda was maybe going to turn bad at the end. That was a big change that I made, and I had a strong perspective on making her a villain from the get-go. It was always like, well, that'll happen in an Avengers movie or something. My perspective was, why are we letting some other movie get the best villain ever?
The sequel to Doctor Strange, titled Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, had a rocky development process. Originally, Scott Derrickson, who directed the first Doctor Strange, was set to return. However, creative differences between Derrickson and Marvel Studios led to his departure, and Sam Raimi was brought on to take on the film instead. The original plans for Doctor Strange 2 involved Wanda Maximoff remaining a hero and helping Doctor Strange battle the original villain of the movie, Nightmare, who turns out to be a corrupted version of Doctor Strange. The theme of Wanda wanting to live her life with an alternative version of her children is still present in this version. However, unlike the final film, she manages to resist for a time until ultimately succumbing to her desire and accidentally beheading Wong, escaping into the multiverse in the film's cliffhanger. As the script evolved under the guidance of Loki writer Michael Waldron, Wanda's role was completely changed in the final version of the movie. Wanda becomes the antagonist, consumed by her grief and desperation to reunite with her children. The shift in tone and character direction significantly altered the film, and fans were left with a very different story than what was originally intended.